he's just a nightmare pairing for absolutely everybody.
No, I have no idea what Danya's talking about, if I'm being totally honest.
I never thought I'd be saying these words, but I agree with Levy.
Yeah, this is crazy. There are 4 literal current world champions here.
Welcome to the Chess.com Global Championship Bracket Breakdown. I am your host, International Master Danny Wrench, alongside the one and only Grandmaster Danya, Daniel Naroditsky, and the biggest chess YouTuber on the planet, International Master Levy Rosman, also known as GothamChess. Guys, we are here to break down Chess.com's biggest event ever, the most exciting event we've ever done. Levy, starting with you, how pumped are you to see what happens in the round of 64 and who makes it to Toronto?
I'm super excited, Danny. We haven't seen a chess event quite like this one. We normally invite all the players and let them play, but this time only half the field is guaranteed a spot, and the other half has had a grueling way to get to the online round of 64, and not to mention have a chance to qualify for the final in Toronto. The prize fund is huge, the stakes are huge, the names are huge. I'm pumped.
Like Levy said, 32 qualified, 32 were invited. We're going to get to the bracket breakdowns here in just a minute. But Danya, over to you. Like Levy said, the biggest prizes we've ever done, more than $1 million in cash, and then more than $100,000 if anyone can get a perfect bracket. Danya, what are your chances you're giving our community that someone gets a perfect and gets a 6-figure prize fund for their efforts?
Well, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, Danny, but there's so many incredibly strong players from every generation in this field that I cannot imagine how one can predict every result accurately. But that is exactly what makes this tournament so incredibly epic. The fact that there are so many players out of this field of 64 who have a serious shot at winning it all.
Like Danya said, there's 64 of them. Every one of them can win. And in preparation for recording this video for you fans, I can tell you our matchups and who we're picking is all over the place because anyone could take this home. We're going to dive into all of that in just a little bit. It's more than $1 million in prizes. It's $100,000 for you if you can be perfect. Thousands of dollars in prizes just for participating. And with that, we are going to jump into our bracket breakdowns just around the corner. All right, Levy and Danya, it's time for Group A. Right there at the top, we have exciting matchups, starting off with Hikaru Nakamura versus Rodrigo Vasquez, David Navarra versus Michael Adams, Lanier Dominguez-Perez versus Maxim Shigaev, and then you have Lequang Liem versus Eric Hansen. Danya, I'm going to start with you. Of those first-round matchups, which one do you have circled as maybe the most exciting?
I'm going to have to go with David Navarra against Michael Adams. These two players are from an older generation. Some of the younger viewers might not have even heard of them. But Michael Adams was top 10 in the world for something like 2 decades. He is not going to go gentle into that good night. And David Navarra has an absolutely fascinating chess style. He's super tactical. And when he is on form, he can basically beat absolutely anybody. So I'm keeping my eye squarely on Michael Adams against David Navarra, Danny.
Levy, you sticking with that battle or another one got your attention?
No, I have no idea what Danya's talking about, if I'm being totally honest. There is one and only one incredibly interesting matchup in this first round matchup of all 8, and that is Lequang Liem versus Eric Hansen, and I will tell you why.
You were going to say that.
Lequang Liem has had an amazing run of all of these online events that he's played. We've seen him beat Magnus, he's had incredible games, and he's an amazing player, but he's playing Eric Hansen. Eric Hansen is a genius. He is brilliant, and he is the dark horse, in my opinion, when you take a look at this group. If Eric is on his A game, I think he's one of the best rapid players that we can see in the world today.
I'm going to agree with you, Levy. I actually think that matchup maybe has most of the world talking. One, because Eric Hansen's fan base, the chess bra, and because we know what Lequang Liem is capable of. Of course, Hikaru Nakamura being the top-seeded guy, probably most people's favorite to win this group. But back to you, Danya. You see anyone but Hikaru ultimately emerging out of Group A?
Well, I never thought I'd be saying these words, but I agree with Levy. And I'm going to have to go with Lequang Liem. He is a perpetually underrated player. His style isn't necessarily as colorful and as ambitious as the style of some of the other crowd favorites, but he is so incredibly consistent. He's an amazing blitz player, and he's got a years-long pedigree of proven tournament victories. So keep your eye on the Vietnamese number 1.
Okay, Levy, you going with Lequang Liem not just in the first round, but to win Group A like Danya?
Look, for a second time in a row, truly, I have no idea what my co-host Daniel Naroditsky here is talking about. Folks, look, I can't be contrarian just to be contrarian. If you look around a tournament field and Magnus Carlsen is there, that is who you put your money on. If you look around and he is not there, you look for Hikaru Nakamura, particularly in speed chess. We might have some interesting matchups in this group. Hikaru may have to go through some serious tests, like Hans Niemann, of course, his first round opponent as well, and maybe a rivalry with Eric Hansen or Lequang Liem. But folks, I think Hikaru is my favorite in Group A.
I'm going to have to go with Levy on this too. Sorry, Danya, that we're picking on you. I think it's hard to pick against Hikaru, as Levy said it so well, so I won't try to keep up with that. But I will circle one other person. I think LDP, Lanier Dominguez-Perez, also a former World Blitz champion. Don't sleep on that guy, even if he's not as young as some of the players in the field. He might surprise some people before all is said and done. And that, my friends, has been our take on Group A. Looking at Group B, we have some of the biggest names in the game. Right at the top, we have Jan Krzysztof Duda versus Mitrabha Guha. Wang Hao versus Peter Leko next. Shakhriyar Mamedyarov faces off versus Vladislav Kovalyev. And then we have Vidit Gujrathi versus Alexei Sarana. Danya, your thoughts?
I'm going to have to go with a little bit of a more predictable choice. I'm going to say Vidit against Alexei Sarana. I mean, both of these players have proven themselves, especially Alexei Sarana. He has turned so many heads with his performances in the RCC, with his consistent performances in Title Tuesdays, and Vidit Gujrathi, well, he basically needs no introduction. Both of these players, they are going to make a serious bid to win the entire thing, and I can't wait for them to face off in the first round.
That's not taking anything away from the battles between Wang Hao and Peter Leko and Mamedyarov versus Kovalyev. I'll say we definitely shouldn't turn our head on Daddy Shock. We know what he's capable of. But let me go back to you, Levy, and say, of the 8 players in this group, who do you think ultimately emerges?
Oh, this is so tough, guys. If I can make a bailout, please, can I predict the final matchup? Can I say Mamedyarov versus Duda and who's ever better on that day? If Mamedyarov shows up and starts throwing haymakers, he's going to break through. But Duda's a fighter. He's an amazing defender. And if Shak is off his game, Duda's moving on to the final in Toronto.
Danya?
This is tearing my heart out, Danny, but I picked Jan Krzysztof Duda beforehand. I'm not going to go back on my choice. He has the most experience playing super tournaments in the last couple of years. He's an incredible rapid player. He's going to come to the table with some amazing opening preparation. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference maker. Duda's opening preparation taken from his candidate's performance, I think is going to push him over the edge and get him to defeat the likes of Shakhriyar Mamedyarov.
Okay, I might surprise both of you before we leave this group behind by saying that I think the first round matchup might tell us who ultimately wins this bracket. I think whoever wins between Vidit Gujrathi and Alexei Sarana is actually the favorite to win this bracket. I think Sarana is often overlooked, way too often. That guy is a monster. If any matchup gets to a blitz tiebreaker and beyond, I like him against almost anybody else in the field, not taking anything away from obviously how strong the players are. So there you have it, everybody. That was our breakdown of Group B. It's time to break down Group C, Levy and Danya. Perhaps the biggest storyline in this particular group is that we have 3 Americans in the field, but only one of them could make it out, or none of them will. We're going to find out. We start with the matchup at the top, with the top-rated American, Wesley So, taking on Denis Lazovic. Then we have the second American, Ray Robson, taking on Vasily Ivanchuk. Alexander Grishuk faces off versus Benjamin Boak. And then Jeffrey Zhang versus Alexander Bortnik. Danya, thrown over to you first. Which matchup has your head spinning?
Danny, I'm salivating at the prospect of watching Jeffrey Zhang take on Alexander Bortnik. Now, Jeffrey, he needs no introduction, and actually neither does Bortnik. He might not be 2,700 FIDE. He might not even be 2,600 FIDE, but nobody in the online chess sphere likes facing Alexander Bortnik. The guy is a beast. He went 9 out of 9 in a Title Tuesday in 2016. And his performance in online tournaments has been nothing short of tremendous. I think Jeffrey has his work cut out for him, and I'm keeping a very, very close eye on that matchup.
Levy, you're batting second. You agree with Danya?
Well, Danny, now I'm just going to look like the kid in the class who's copying off the smart kid. I was going to choose that matchup if you had come to me first. I just want the record to reflect that. But I do have a horse in this race because I have played Denis Lazovic in Title Tuesday a handful of times, and he's made me look like I was 1,000 points lower than I am. So I'm cheering for him against Wesley So. No disrespect whatsoever to Wesley. I'm curious to see how Denis does in the big leagues.
You both picked a good matchup, but in my book, you both struck out on this one. To me, the most exciting matchup in the first round has to be Chucky. Vasily Ivanchuk. Have we ever seen him playing in an online chess tournament with these types of stakes? This guy, one of the best players in the world to never have had a chance at the throne. Will he be the Chess.com global champion? Who knows? I think that matchup is the most exciting. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Danya, and say, regardless of our first round matchup debate, who do you got coming out of Group C?
Gosh, I'm going to go with a very unconventional pick here. Now, yes, I know Wesley is Wesley. If I was choosing it statistically, I would go with him. But Ray Robson, do not sleep on Ray. He's almost 2,700 FIDE. His opening preparation is absolutely tremendous. And he's just a nightmare pairing for absolutely everybody. So if Ray can get through Vasily Ivanchuk in the first round, I think that he's going to make a serious bid to winning the entire group and shocking the entire chess world.
I am shocked by that, but before I give my thoughts, got to go to Levy and get his.
Okay, this is completely ridiculous. I mean, I was honestly going to pick Ray Robson. I had prepared this massive monologue for the fact that Ray Robson was a top junior my entire life. I could never be higher rated than him. And he's been 2,600 for a decade. Just a decade. He's only gaining rating anytime he takes chess seriously. But if we have to look around, it's very difficult to choose between Wesley So and Ray Robson in that second round matchup. But I think the experience, the advantage there goes to Wesley. Let's not forget he is a world champion. I see Wesley emerging out of Group C.
No disrespect to Ray. I think of the three Americans, he might be the least likely, but I'm going to go with a different person regardless. I'm taking Grishuk. That guy, our old Uncle Sasha, is going to get through Group C and be dancing with us in Toronto, Canada. My friends, that was our breakdown of Group C. It's time to break down Group D for the Chess.com Global Championship. Levy and Danya, one of the big questions everyone is probably thinking about is, will this be the Fabiano Caruana redemption tour? Maybe not a world champion, maybe becomes the first Chess.com Global Champion. But I'll let you give your thoughts on each matchup as we jump into the bracket. We start things off with Fabiano Caruana versus Martin Kravtsev. Then we have Kirill Alexeyenko taking on Jose Martinez. Dmitry Onjakin then faces off versus Aram Hakobian. And then we have Vladimir Fedoseev versus Gothamchess. Levy, you get to bat leadoff in this case. Which matchup do you have circled?
Oh, without question, it's Vladimir Fedoseev versus Gothamchess. Of course, we go back to a previous generation. Gothamchess was just an absolute savage. You saw him paired in the same tournament you were going to. You shuddered a little bit. An absolute legend. He still plays constantly to this day. He keeps up with all the best names. And Fedoseev needs no introduction either. He is constantly winning all sorts of events. A very, very tough opponent. I'm looking forward to that one.
Danya, your thoughts?
Well, Fabiano Caruana, Danny, you mentioned that he's been struggling. It's no secret that he's been struggling mightily over the past couple of tournaments, and I think he's going to bring his absolute A game. I'm very excited to see how he handles his first round matchup against Martin Kravtsev, who is no pushover at all. He did a great job in the World Blitz Championship. It's going to be a fascinating first round battle for Fabiano.
I love the matchups you guys chose. I want to highlight that Jose Martinez and Dmitry Onjakin are two guys who have made names for themselves online over the last few years, and both those guys and their matchups should not be overlooked. But we're going to go back to you, Levy, and say that regardless of the first round matchup that has us excited, who do you think wins this one?
I think it's going to come down to actually the bottom half of the bracket that moves up. So it's going to likely be Dmitry Onjakin moving on against Vladimir Fedoseev. And I think whoever wins that matchup will take it over whoever emerges from the top half. If I got to choose one, I'm going Onjakin. I like the experience. I like all of his results thus far in the Rapid Championship. I'm going Dmitry.
Danya, who do you got coming out of Group D?
See, now I feel like that kid in class who has to copy homework. But I can't change my opinion. Vladimir Fedoseev, I'm good friends with him. He's such a talented player. But Onjakin is Onjakin. I mean, his performance in the RCC, his performance in Title Tuesday, the fact that he's over 2,700 FIDE, which a lot of people seem to forget about, he's got the whole shebang, the whole 9 yards. I'm going to have to agree with Levy and go with Dmitry.
I don't blame either of you from a little bit of recency bias. Onjakin, obviously a monster, but I'm going to accuse you of it because I'm going to say when push comes to shove, when the stakes are at their highest, the best chess comes out. And I think there's a reason Fabiano Caruana is the third highest rated player in history. I think his rapid chess has improved, and I think he joins us in Toronto. But either way, those are our thoughts, and that, my friends, was our take on Group D. It's time for me, Levy, and Danya to break down Group E. So many players, so many matchups here to dive into. Big question, can anybody stop Nepo? He's challenging for the world title for a second time, just won the Rapid Chess Championship. Let's dive into the bracket and talk about what these matchups will bring us. We start off right there at the top with Jan Nepomniachtchi taking on Mohammad Muradli. Then we have Peter Svidler taking on Alexei Shirov. Timur Rajabov will battle against Ho Yifan. And then we have Arjun Erigaisi versus David Paravian. Who knows where to go, what to talk about here? I'm going to start with you, Danya. Which matchup do you have circled?
Well, Alexei Shirov should be a familiar name to all. He wrote a series of best games collections called Fire on Board, and it's no coincidence that he called it that, because every time Alexei touches the chess pieces, the chessboard explodes. I am choosing his match against Peter Svidler, who is very well known to the chess world as an amazing player and commentator. Shirov against Svidler is going to be one to watch.
Levy, did Danya steal your thunder, or you got your eyes on another matchup?
No, I'm looking at something completely different, Danny. I'm taking a look at this matchup between Arjun Erigaisi and David Paravian. Anytime David shows up to play, he might not be as much of a household name, I should say, as some of the other grandmasters from Russia, but this man comes to fight all the time, and Arjun Erigaisi is one of the fastest rising stars of India. That is the matchup that I'm looking at most probably in this first round.
I'm going to go a different direction here and look at Timur Rajabov, resurgent in his career a little bit right now. Had a pretty good showing there at the Candidates in Madrid, taking on one of the only women players in the field, but one of the strongest players in the field. And of course, the second highest rated woman player of all time in Ho Yifan. I don't know who I like in that matchup. I think Ho Yifan likes herself the rapid format. So that's one that I'm definitely watching. But I'm going to go back to Levy first and say, regardless of our first round matchups, do we see anyone but Nepo coming out of this one? Who do you got winning Group E?
No, absolutely not. Jan Nepomniachtchi is going to win this group, and he is an incredibly strong favorite for the entire thing. I think Jan is probably the second best chess player on the planet right now, maybe third. We can have that debate, but my goodness, I mean, how do you bet against Jan in this group?
Danya?
I'll tell you how. At the time that we are recording this, Arjun Erigaisi's live rating is 27-25. He won the Tata Steel Challengers, and he literally just won the Abu Dhabi Masters a couple of days ago. He is totally unstoppable. His level of play isn't just 27-20. He's playing at a 2800 level, and if he can carry that momentum through, Arjun Erigaisi is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think he's going to give Jan Nepomniachtchi a serious run for his money.
I agree with the two of you in a weird sense. I'll say that I think our final in this particular group is Nepomniachtchi versus Erigaisi. I don't know who's going to win. I have to lean Nepo, though. And all right, that was our take on Group E. All right, fellas, it's time for us to turn our attention to Group F. We've got former world champions in this bracket. We have the potential for former world championship matchups to take place in this group of 8 players. We're going to start things off at the top of this bracket, though, as we look first at Anish Giri versus women's world champion Zhu Wenjun. Then we have Veselin Topalov taking on Raunak Sadwani. Then you have Vishwanathan Anand versus Pavel Pankratov. And then reigning world rapid champion Norbek Abdusaturov versus Boris Gelfand. Guys, how do we circle a first-round matchup in this bracket? Levy, you have the tough task of leading us off.
Yeah, this is crazy. There are 4 literal current world champions here, and there is 1 challenger to the world championship throne. This is an unbelievable matchup. I mean, I don't know what to choose. You know what? If I'm going first, I'm obviously going to take the juicy one. I got to take the reigning defending rapid champion of the world, Nodirbek Abdusaturov, Uzbek Grandmaster versus Boris Gelfand. I'm pretty sure Boris Gelfand has worked with all the youngsters of the world. He obviously was a coach in India. I don't know about how much of an impact he's had on Nodirbek, but that is what I'm looking at in this first round matchup.
Love that matchup. Danya, your thoughts?
Well, Levy stealing my thunder again. But Vishy Anand, anytime he plays in a tournament, all eyes turn toward Vishy. He has maintained his strength through the years. He has kept putting in incredibly solid performances. I'm so excited to see how far he can get in the global championship, and I'm going to be keeping a close eye on his first round match against a very strong grandmaster in his own right, Pavel Pankratov.
This is not a bracket where we have to pretend to want to talk about all four matchups. I mean, Topalov versus Saudwani, right? Another former world champion. And then Anish Giri might be the top rated player, but he's taking on the reigning women's world champion in Zhu Wenjun. Wow, everyone has their work cut out for them. I'm going to go back to you, Danya, and ask you, though, who do you see ultimately emerging out of Group F?
Well, I think Levy said the key words: reigning world rapid champion. This is a rapid time control. This man, this boy, this monster, he has been building up confidence through the last couple of tournaments, put in yet another amazing performance at the Olympiad. I am going with Noterbek Abdusattorov. Boris Gelfand, his first round opponent, is going to be a force to be reckoned with. It ain't going to be an easy journey, but Noterbek has been absolutely unstoppable of late, and I think he keeps his momentum going with another incredible performance.
You stole Danya's thunder earlier, Levy. Did he just steal yours, or you got someone else winning Group F?
No, I think Noderbek's first round matchup is extremely interesting, but I think how can you root against the Tiger from Madras? I mean, are you kidding me? Vishwanathan Anand, when this man shows up to the to any playing hall, all the chess pieces start glowing, okay? And when he takes on Noderbek, and if he does take on Noderbek, I think experience is going to triumph over youth, and I think Vishwanathan Anand is moving on to the finals.
I'm going to tell everyone they shouldn't turn their back on the other young player in the field in Saudwani. He is so comfortable playing online on Chess.com, has been since he was, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years old. But I also agree that Abdusattorov probably the favorite, given that he is the reigning world rapid champion. But either way, that was our look at Group F. All right, guys, we are now going to jump into Group G. Will this be Vladimir Kramnik's unretirement party, not a world championship title, but a global championship title, or someone else coming out of this group? Let's take a look at the bracket and preview each matchup. We start at the top with Dingli Ren versus Tuan Min Lee. Then we have Andrei Isipenko taking on Bassem Amin. Vladimir Kramnik, as mentioned, will be taking on Hrant Melkumian. And then we have Nihal Sarin versus Ralph Mamedov. Danya, I got to ask you to choose. I think all of them look good, but which one is your favorite to start things off?
Well, Min Lei, I'm just going to say that name a couple of times. Anybody who's even logged into chess.com should see wonderful time at the very top of the rankings. He was known by many as the strongest IM in the world until he got his last Grandmaster norm recently in Philadelphia. He's now a Grandmaster-elect, but he has his work cut out for him. Dingli Ren, he needs absolutely no introduction, but do not sleep on Min. His opening repertoire is solid. His style caters incredibly well to rapid, so I am watching Min and seeing if he can score any big upsets and catch some big fish in the CGC.
Levy, what you got for us here?
Look, I see Vladimir Kramnik. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen, right? Of course, he had this match against Vincent Keimer, which ultimately led to him describing the moral degradation of being flagged in a completely winning endgame that obviously would result in a punch to the face very swiftly if it was done over the board. I'm curious to see how he does, not just against Hrant Melkumian, if I can just pick him as the most interesting matchup of the entire group, but obviously he's got to start somewhere, and that's against Mr. Melkumian in the first round.
Good picks, guys. I also cannot wait. I think I like that matchup with Dingli Ren and Tuan Min Lee as well. The other person who will be challenging for the World Chess Championship throne in Dingli Ren being, of course, Jan Nepomniachtchi. But I'm going to go back to you, Danya, and say, regardless of the first round matchups, who do you got ultimately emerging from Group G?
Listen, my heart is hoping that Kramnik goes far and Dingli Ren goes far, but the first time Nihal Sarin turned heads was a couple of years ago in the SEC when he beat the likes of Alexander Grishuk. The guy is an absolute monster in time pressure. Nihal Sarin is one of my favorite players to watch. He's so versatile. He's wise beyond his years on and off the chessboard. And I think he's going to go very, very far. I think this is going to be one of his breakout tournaments. He may be below 2,700, but if you just watch his tournament performances, you could easily confuse him for a top 10 Grandmaster. I'm going with Nihal.
Levy, who do you see coming out of Group G and making their way to Toronto?
Well, if Danya's math is correct, that means that when we reach that final matchup, it's going to be Nihal Sarin versus Dingli Ren. And if you're telling me that Nihal Sarin is going to pull the upset off, then he should just win the entire thing and we should all just go home right now. Because if he's that good, he's that damn good. But guys, Dingli Ren. I just talked about this, one of the other players in the event, obviously, Jan Nepomniachtchi, he's one of the top 3 players in the world. Dingli Ren is in that group. Dingli Ren is winning this group, guys.
I see Dingli Ren. I see Nihal Sarin. I see Nihal Sarin maybe no longer afraid of spiders, as he told us in a junior speeches championship a few years ago. But I see another man in this group coming out, and that is Andrei Esipenko. I think you guys turned your heads too fast on that one. I think he beats Dingli Ren in the second round and ultimately punches his ticket to Toronto, Canada. Wonder what the fans think, but there you have our take on Group G. All right, boys, it's time to dive into the final bracket. That bracket is Group H, and like all the others, it is an exciting one. You have Aronian and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave pivoted against each other on opposite sides. Will they be the final matchup in this bracket? So much to discuss here, so let's start off with the first matchup, and that is Levon Aronian versus Nicholas Theodorou. Then we have Francisco Vallejo Pons versus Maxime Matlikov. Then the Frenchman with three names, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, takes on Eduardo Iturrizaga. And finally, Samuel Sevillain, the American, taking on Rasmus Svein. Levy, I'm letting you go first on this one. What you got for us?
Folks, I'm going to break a truth bomb for all of you. Nicholas Theodorou is the most underappreciated and underestimated player in this entire event. That is Criari. This man was a 2,500 international master playing on Chess.com, beating Hikaru. He just beat Levon Aronian in the Olympiad, folks. Can we just please get a reminder of that? That is by far the most interesting first round matchup. Can he pull off the shocking rapid upset and assert total dominance over Aronian, or will Aronian strike back?
All right, well, that was good. Danya, what do you got?
I think Levy reached into my brain and pulled out all the words I was going to say. But the other matchup that I'm so excited about is Sam Sevillain against Rasmus Svein. Both of these players are dynamic. They are young. Samuel Sevillain recently broke into the 2,700 club, and he's been winning the RCC weekend in and weekend out. So I'm going to be watching these two young talents battle it out very intently.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave versus Iturrizaga is a matchup I feel like we've seen in the Pro Chess League over the years. I can't wait to see what happens there. And Francisco Vallejo Pons hasn't played in a lot of online events. How does he fare against a regular online player in Matlikov? We'll find out. But okay, if we look at this bracket, trying to pick a winner, who will be joining us in Toronto, Canada, guys? Levy, what do you got?
Look, if I have to choose a matchup in the finals, I think it's Levon versus MVL. Can we all agree on that? But those guys can beat each other on any different day. You run a simulation of 100 matchups, it's 50-50, it's 49-51. I don't know. Flip a coin. My coin flip landed. It's MVL who's moving on to the finals.
Okay, Danya, who do you got?
It's interesting. I also flipped a coin, and my coin landed on Levon Aronian. And I think the reason my coin was weighted in Levon's favor is just because of experience. MVL, he hasn't been playing all that much in the last couple of years. We know that online chess success is at least somewhat correlated with experience, and Levon has been incredibly active in the last couple of months. I'm going to have to go with Levon over Maxime.
I'd love to flip a coin, but I used them all to phone a friend already to get some advice on this, and I didn't get any good advice. I can't pick against MVL or Levon Aronian, but I think MVL has to get by Iturrizaga first, and I think that guy is so underrated in Rapid and Blitz. People should watch out for that guy to maybe shock the world and punch his ticket to Toronto. And okay, that was our look at the final bracket of the first round of 64. It was Group H. Wonder what the fans think, let us know. And that was our take on the final bracket. The big question is who will become the first ever Chess.com Global Champion? Well, Danya, I'm going to go back to you and let you go first. Tell us, when all 8 of them are in Toronto, who ultimately emerges with the crown?
Listen, Danny, one of my biggest regrets about the last candidates tournament was that Wesley So was not participating. In terms of consistency, if you add up everything, opening preparation, consistency, nerves, ability to perform in clutch moments, I'm going to have to go with Wesley So. I mean, the guy is an absolute tank. He's going to take this tournament so seriously, and that means more opening ideas, more exciting opening preparation, and cool, calm, and collected Wesley in critical moments. My pick, as difficult as it is going to be Wesley So.
Great pick there with Wesley So. Levy, what do you have for us?
Look, I said this once, I hyped him up already. I'm going to hype him up to an extreme now. The second best chess player in the world right now is named Jan Nepomniachtchi, and it is unquestionable that he is extremely good in classical and blitz, but he also just won Chess.com's Rapid Championship, and I think he is going to emerge out of Toronto as the winner of this event.
Both those picks obviously amazing, but for lack of being accused of bias, I guess I have to go with the guy Hikaru Nakamura. It's not just that he's the most popular chess streamer on the planet. He continues to prove people wrong, that he did not retire his performance in Madrid to get to Madrid, and all the things that he continues to do to impress the world. This is a format that was created to be won by Hikaru Nakamura. It's rapid, and ultimately there will be blitz tiebreakers and close matchups. I think it's really hard not to see Hikaru coming out of Canada as the first ever Chess.com global champion. But there you have it, everybody. Those were our picks. You can let us know your picks. Leave comments on Twitter, a comment on YouTube, wherever you might be watching this video from. Leave us a comment. Let us know your pick. And then make sure you take some time to fill out a bracket, not just because there are thousands of dollars in prizes for winning, but if you somehow fill out a perfect bracket, you have a chance to take away a $100,000 cash prize. You can watch the entire Chess.com Global Championship. The round of 64 kicks off on September 14th, and you can tune in to wherever you prefer watching chess from, twitch.tv/chess, youtube.com/chess, many of the other platforms in which we stream to. The finals will be live starting November 2nd, and that, everyone, was our Chess.com Global Championship breakdown. Thank you to Levy, thank you to Danya, and thank you to all the fans who will take the time to watch the event as we bring it to you live, and we will maybe see you in Toronto.